In this episode, once again, we speak to the amazing Lauren Goldstein. Lauren is the founder and the CEO of award-winning and globally recognized business consulting firm, Golden Key Partnership. Her clients lovingly call her the Biz Doctor, which also happens to be the name of her podcast. Her superpower is helping seven-figure service-based entrepreneurs uncover what is keeping them stuck in the trenches of their business so they can have more freedom, impact, success, happier teams, and can breathe a much-needed sigh of relief. She has been featured in Thrive Global, Huffington Post, Authority Magazine, and is a trusted expert to Fortune 500 companies like Apple, Nike, AT&T, amongst others. And today we talk to Lauren about the 3 pillars of high-performing business. Let's find out. And remember, if you want to upgrade your money mindset, then click on the link, www.millionairefoundations.com, and watch my free training. Welcome. This is Gull, your money mindset expert. And guess what? We have the beautiful, the wonderful, the charming, the extremely smart Lauren Goldstein. Welcome, Lauren.
Thank you so much for having me. It's good to be back.
Thank you so much, Lauren. Lauren, it's just a fantastic conversation about the future, but we had to have you back. Now, everyone has heard your intro, Lauren, but please, in your own words, tell everybody what it is that you do.
So my clients lovingly nicknamed me the Biz Doctor because my passion is helping service-based business owners get out from underneath their business with the right operations and teams so they can have true entrepreneurial freedom.
Wonderful. And today, Lauren, we're talking about the 3 pillars of high-performing businesses. So let's start with that. I mean, you are very well equipped to talk about this. Tell us, what are the 3 pillars?
The 3 pillars are people, process, and profit.
Awesome. So now let's go through them individually. So the first one's people.
People, yes. So this is actually one of my favorite ones to talk about. So a lot of business owners actually get this wrong. So this is one of the parts that I really love diving into. So when it comes to people, it's about building the right team for you. So if you haven't listened to our conversation from before with my golden nugget at the end about know thyself, this is where you really get to know thyself. And we use an amazing assessment called Wealth Dynamics, but it doesn't matter what assessment you use. The more clear you are on your unique talents and strengths as an entrepreneur, the more successful you'll be by building the right team around you. Because one of the biggest mistakes that I see, well, there's 2. But the first primarily is going and hiring your clone. So if you've ever said, I wish I could clone myself, please stop that. Don't do that. Because what happens when you do that is it becomes the blind leading the blind, because unfortunately you will have the same weaknesses as this other person, when what you really want to be doing is looking for people that strengths, that its expertise are your weaknesses, so that you can stay in your lane going 80 miles an hour with your hair on fire, and they can do the things that they are also good at. This also means that the team that somebody else has might not be the right team for you. Your first hire might be somebody in fulfillment or operations or systems, or it could be in sales. It just depends. But when you know yourself and you build the right team for you, that's when you create massive momentum and massive leverage. And to that same point, on the other side of this coin, another mistake that I see people make is hiring worker bees instead of players. So let me break this down. A player produces profits. They have a plan, they're autonomous, they're team players. They know where they're headed and are experts in their 5 acres that they are tending to. Versus worker bees, very necessary for a business. But if you have a lean team of, I don't know, I'm going to throw out a number, let's say less than 10, and you're managing all of those 10 people, you should not have a single worker bee that you manage. Because what worker bees do is they create more work for you, because you have to do 2 people's jobs, your job, but then also thinking of tasks for them to do. Because players are project-oriented, goal-oriented, whereas worker bees are very task-oriented. And so this is the other common mistake that I see people make. where they're like, I just need somebody to take this off my plate. Yeah, that's true. You do. But when you can think about it from a more long-term sustainable standpoint, when you hire a player that can actually do all of those things and create time for you versus somebody just taking tasks off your plate, then you actually increase profitability, create time. You can become a time traveler. And it's just a heck of a lot more fun to run with someone than to constantly feel like you're uttering the words, why can't they just do their job? Like, why can't they think of things, take things off my plate? Why can't they read my mind? That's because you've got a worker bee in that seat instead of a player.
Wow. Okay. So, I mean, this is gold, because I think we don't think of these things. We think, well, do I like this person? Do I think they have the right skill set? And we don't really think of them. You know, you may not like the individual, but they may be perfectly suited to a particular role. I know that in one of my businesses, you know, I'm so like 100 miles per hour person, and I'm jumping, bouncing off the walls, and you know, and I do hold a lot of, being a business owner, I do hold a lot of masculine energy. But this individual, he's a man. He's completely opposite to me. He's so slow. He speaks like a tenth of the rate of me, and he thinks for 5 minutes before he speaks, whereas I've sent everything in 2 seconds. But I mean, he's very different from me. And I was thinking, when we were going to this new business, I was thinking, how are we going to work? And I was thinking of not keeping him, to be honest. I was thinking, I don't think he can work in me. But I remember talking to one of my mentors and having a discussion about him specifically. And my mentor said, this may be the person. We haven't done the assessment yet, because we have to do the assessments as well for him. He said, this may be the person you need exactly in your business for that particular role, because you are not doing that role. He is. And we don't need someone like you to do that role. We need someone like him to do that role. And that's when the light bulb went up. And I realized, you don't hire people because they have great skill sets. You hire people with the right skill sets for the right job. And that's crucial. And especially the skills that are not present within yourself. Because I think too many times the people we like are who remind us, you know, who look similar to us, who the kind of people that we would get on with. This individual is not someone I would get on with. I think he's a nice person, but we're not going to be friends. But that doesn't mean that we can't be great colleagues. And it was just a light bulb moment that happened for me. And what you just said completely highlighted exactly that conversation that I had with my mentor. And I realized, oh my God, how true that is, and how we take it for granted. And I had that conversation with him because obviously I've got a mentor. But generally, most business owners would not be aware of such a crucial element when they're hiring teams. Business is not made of bricks and mortar. The businesses are made of people. Without businesses, there is no business. You know, the people make up the business. That's the whole point.
Exactly. Yeah. And I do want to make sure I say this. So when we say skill, what I mean is, like, who are they in their DNA? And I'll give you a great example. So I hate bookkeeping. Can I do it? 100%. Do I love it? No, I do not. But there are these weird people, I say this with love, that love it. They love the closed loops, the dotting of the I's, the crossing of T's, because it's in their DNA. And so when you're hiring, I want you to think about, who does this person need to be in the core of their DNA to be successful? Because you can teach someone any piece of technology out there.
Yeah.
But what you cannot teach someone is, if you have someone who's not detail oriented to be detail oriented, or somebody who loves people to suddenly not like people, or vice versa. Yeah. And so knowing that who they are in their soul is going to go a long way to making sure you have the right butts in the right seats.
100%. I love that. I love that. So then the next pillar would be, you said the first one is people. The next one is process. Okay.
So this is when a lot of people think of operations is process. And the thing that I want you to take away from this, if you take nothing else from this process section, is, how can I make this more simple? Because complex does not scale. Simple scales. And so when you look at your process, what I want you to think about is two, maybe three things. The first is when somebody says yes, because I'm just going to talk mostly about behind the scenes because sales processes are different, but I'm going to talk about the back end of your business. After somebody says yes, I want you to audit your process and ask, what are the steps to get them to that first kickoff call? What happens after the kickoff call? What are the moving pieces that need a human touch that maybe you can automate or systematize? Or where are the moments where things get bottlenecked? And lay it out, and then ask yourself, if I was on a remote island in Bali with no internet, no Slack, no email, no nothing, could my team follow this? And if the answer is no, either you have a too complicated of a process, or you haven't actually articulated what's in your brain and put it down on paper so that people aren't skipping steps, or you haven't really thought out your process. Because I this is something that trips up a lot of entrepreneurs because we're really good at thinking people can read our minds. And we're like, obviously, you know that. But the truth is, we have a tremendous amount of institutional knowledge around our processes that if we don't take and get it out of our brain into a document that is simple, easy to use, and adoptable by our team, then it's just going to sit in there. And then our team's going to get stuck and you're going to be trapped in your business because you're always the bottleneck. And so when you're thinking about your processes, I want you to start thinking about them from the standpoint of, if I sold the business tomorrow, could it run without me? And it doesn't have to run without you today, but that's where you want to get it to. And then the same side of that coin is, if you bought your business tomorrow, would you buy it? Because that's going to illuminate a lot of places in your business where the operations are not optimized. And so ideally, you should have operations around your customer journey, your customer onboarding, your fulfillment, and you just want to keep them really simple. Because again, the more complicated you make them, the harder it's going to be to scale. And I think a lot of people also, speaking of scale, and I can talk about this now or later, maybe I'll just talk about it now. There's a difference between growing and scaling. And a lot of business owners use that interchangeably. And in my opinion, they are very different. So a growing business is a business where your expenses to get to the next level are continually in this kind of photo finish with your revenue. So in terms of growing, that's normal because you're building things, you're putting in operations, maybe you're increasing your tech stack, maybe you're hiring people. So it's normal to have a profitability margin that's not necessarily growing. It's kind of just staying the same or maybe dipping when you have big investments. Versus scaling. Scaling is when you are doing the same, you're doing more revenue with the same amount of resources. So you might add a person here or there or change a tech stack here and there, but most of the time you have a proven product, a proven process, and a proven profitability model that allows you to just have that hockey stick moment. But it doesn't happen going from 0 to 10. It happens by doubling each time. And when you understand, which I can talk about in profitability, the step costs associated with getting your business to the next level from a process standpoint, you're going to be set up for much more success. And if you've not heard of step costs before, let me take a slight tangent and I'll talk about this. So a lot of times we'll say something like, I want to double my business, which in theory sounds great, but you have to think about what happens from a process and team standpoint behind the scenes that will get you to that. So a question that I ask my clients a lot is, if your business doubled tomorrow, what would break? Because that's where the process foundation and operational foundation needs to be really strong. And so if you know that to double your business, that means you're going to need I don't know, a new team member to do client onboarding, or let's say you have a brick and mortar. So now you're going to need more space or a bigger warehouse. If you don't think about that proactively, then all of a sudden your cash flow is going to be severely diminished. And as we know, cash is king. And if you
Yeah.
don't have a viable, sustainable cash flow, then you could very easily be out of business faster than you realize.
Amazing. Again, there's so many nuggets of gold in there that I was attentively listening myself as a business owner, having my own businesses as well. And I was thinking, oh, this makes sense. Oh, that makes sense. And I'm sort of pairing those things up. And I do agree. I think the processes are really important. And I think once, and now that I've got businesses in multiple niches, being online space and the property, and now in the manufacturing space as well. So I do believe the skills that are required to build one business are transferable to it. Obviously, the product or the service changes, but as long as the system you just mentioned, exactly that, as long as you have the process down and you know what's required in order for you to scale up, in order for you to double the business and double the profitability and so forth. Because I've got in my mind the business we literally just built today, we've completed and signed the papers today. How in my target for that is that we're going to double the revenue and keep the profitability at a similar level, at least, or if not increasing. And so we will double the profitability over the next 12 months. That's a big call, but I'm not going blindly. I know what we're going to do, and we'll be speaking to a mentor about it. We'll have a strategy about how to do this practically, because there is a brick and mortar, and we have the capacity for additional staff and so forth. So I'm already thinking of, we will need additional staff. And the practicalities behind it, hiring, maintaining, training, all of that goes beyond what the online spaces. So yeah, the processes are really, really important, and you have to understand this. And the same principles apply in the online business, because when you go from making 10, 20K a month to 100K a month and into 7 figures a month or multiple 6 figures a month, you need to have additional staff to be able to handle the onboarding, be able to take care of the clients and whichever service you provide. Again, additional staff, the training and everything else that goes with it. And therefore, it's not a matter of just doubling the amount of ad spend and doubling the, as gurus would have you believe, just double the ad spend and double this and scale up and whatever. There's so much more that goes into it. Mm-hmm. I think it's so crucial that the skills that you acquire by running one successful business that you scale up, that can be transferred into any business. And I'm thinking out loud. And this is the most important skill set that you need in order to be, to be an entrepreneur in the true sense of the word. Yep. So I love the fact that you need to be aware of the processes and what is required at different, so if you want to scale up, what different processes will be required and how much more input it requires for you to scale or grow, as you put it. I love that. Yep. So the third pillar would be profits. Now talk to us about profits now.
Yes. So profits. So yes, this is obviously about what we all define profits as, but the way that I view this is around 3 things. 1, where are your concentrated risks? So where are things, because if you don't know this, let me enlighten you. Revenue is a lagging metric. If you are running your business on revenue, please stop. Don't do it, because it's very hard to do, because it's a lagging metric, and the revenue you see today could have been generated 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months before. So it's not a viable way to run your business. So we want to look at concentrated risks. So this is where I look at your business, and it could be a concentrated risk with a supplier. It could be a concentrated risk with an employee. It could be a concentrated risk with a client and the revenue they bring in. Because ideally, you don't want to have any concentrated risks in your business if you can help it. Because if something outside your control happens and you have one of those, let's say your major supplier all of a sudden shuts down and now you're up a creek, or this pivotal employee for some reason leaves, that's not good. Or even this big client that's 70% of your revenue, they decide that they're complete. Like, those are all big things that will very surely shake the foundation of the business. So that's first and foremost. The second is revenue cliffs. So I'm not in sales and marketing, but the thing that I do know is your profitability per client vastly increases when you already have them as a client. It costs a lot to get a new client. If you retain that client, it's like sheer profit. So look at your business and look and see where your revenue cliffs are, where the money that you're getting from your current clients just drops off a cliff. And ask yourself, is there something that we don't necessarily have to create out of thin air, but we can reuse, recycle, repurpose to keep them in our ecosystem for as long as possible, still delivering value?
Mm.
And then the third part of profit is really understanding when all things are moving together, how are you growing your business? Like, what do you want to grow in your profitability, and what's sucking your profitability? So what I mean is, we talked about this in the green room. Every business as it grows has what I call barnacles. These are things that you maybe purchased, people that you have on your team from the beginning, that maybe got you where you are, but they're not going to get you to the next level. There's lots of different things that can be these barnacles and create bloat in your business. And so when you look at your profitability, having that full picture of understanding where you want your profitability to grow and also what's sucking the majority of your profitability is huge. And it could be something as simple as changing insurance carriers or changing workman's comp, or maybe you need to change how an employee is compensated. Or maybe you actually have an employee that is not performing, but we all have big hearts and you're having a hard time letting them go. And so when it comes to profitability, you want to keep more of what you earn. So understanding where your revenue cliffs are, where your concentrated risks are, where your business barnacles and bloat is coming from, then it's actually going to help you create this very lean, high-performing profit machine on the end, because you're not having to deal with all the stuff that's accumulated over the years.
I think that is absolutely key. I think most business owners sort of leave all the profit the profit side. Oh, my bookkeeper or my accountant will have a look at it. But I think the one thing that I've realized is, yes, we need to have bookkeepers and accountants 100%. We need to have financial professionals, but we as business owners cannot lose sight of the end goal. And profitability and what it means is crucial to understand, especially the way you just explained it. I mean, I know this from right from when I first got into marketing. It's much easier to sell to somebody a customer, than to get a new customer. And that's why all these big companies spend all this money on marketing to acquire new customers, but then they try to retain them and keep them as well. Loyalty is a big factor. But I think far too many times, and I was thinking back now to one of my businesses, I found it very difficult to retain them after a certain period of time. And I didn't do what you just asked me to do, which was, look at the cliff notes, see where they fall off. Had I done that, and I knew the factor was, I know the period is usually the second, or it's usually after the second year or 2.5 years later, something along those lines, especially for the high-end program, and probably 6 months after for the monthly membership. But why is that? Because they're still receiving lots of value. They still are, and the most people who leave these programs, when they come, they actually do worse off. So they leave and they actually then say, oh, well, I was doing really well, then I stopped. I'm like, yeah, well, then you stop working with me. I can't help you now. And but that happens. And it was something that I didn't focus on. I just went, okay, get new client. Had I focused on retaining and serving the old ones in a different way more, and came up with different ideas to help and serve them more, it would have been a lot more profitable for my business, which I didn't think about at the time. Now that I am, in hindsight, as they say, hindsight's great, right?
Yeah. So there's a couple of things there I want to touch on. First, in case you're like, but I don't know what they want, just ask them. So I do a midpoint check-in as well as a post-project feedback form. And in the questions, it says, do you want to discuss continuing support with Lauren? is there anything that you would like to see covered next or in addition to? I can't remember exactly how I phrase it, but having them tell you what they're searching for is a huge weight off. And then the other thing in terms of, understanding that the profitability is found with lifetime value. The other place that profitability is found is from the clients who love you so much that they bring their friends. Like that is 100% profitability as well.
Yeah.
So when you focus on the clients that you have now and giving them a world-class experience, it makes your job easier. It makes their experience better. And it also, I have a client who I adore. He loves me too. He sends me an introduction a week at this point. And are they always a fit? No, but it just goes to show that he's having such a great experience that he wants to bring his friends along.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I think referrals are the best clients to get. Not everyone is, when they come as referral are a good fit for you, because you have to work on what works best. But if they are a good fit, they tend to be an amazing client, because you didn't have to convince them to come to you or do lots of marketing tactics to come to you. They had somebody they trusted who had a great experience, who's referring them to you. And usually we do that when it comes to movies or restaurants and so forth. Someone recommends a restaurant, you go and you're expecting a good service and amazing food because you've been told it's amazing. And sometimes, actually most of the time, our expectations play a part in the experience we have. So I think that's another reason. Well, yeah, on that note, we're going to wrap this up. So can we go over each of these really quick summaries for each of these 3 pillars, please?
Oh, yes. So people, do you have the right people for you? Process, what is the most simple way that you can fulfill and move people through your business that is sustainable and scalable? And then profits, just asking yourself, where are those business barnacles, bloating areas or concentrated risks and revenue cliffs that are sucking your profitability?
Wonderful. So on that note, we are going to wrap up. Lauren, tell us, where can we find you? How can we connect with you on the internet?
So the best way, since you're either watching me or listening to me in your ear, is to head on over to my podcast, the Biz Doctor podcast, or you can hop on over to our website. We've got some really great resources there, including our scorecard at goldenkeypartnership.com. I'm also on LinkedIn, which is just search my name, Lauren Goldstein, or on Instagram at It's Lauren Goldstein, and I'd love to connect with you.
Wonderful. So if you are listening to us on the podcast, remember the links for Lauren will be in the show notes. And if you're watching us on YouTube, down below in the description section, we'll have the links to her. She is amazing. I promise you. I've learned so much from her today. And if you need someone to support you on your business journey, I highly, highly recommend get a mentor and do seek out Lauren's help or another mentor's help. But, we're speaking to Lauren today, so I think Lauren's definitely someone you can check out. Do go and seek help, because it's difficult. Entrepreneurship is difficult as it is. Let's just be very honest with it. It's not an easy ride. It's a roller coaster ride, and we have our ups and we have our lows, and the lows are low and the highs are high. So you need somebody else to support you on this journey, but also somebody who can give you an unbiased, objective opinion, or about what can you do to improve your business, because we're all here to improve your business, to scale up, to grow into 7, 8, 9 figures, whatever your ambitions are. It's easier to get someone else who's not biased, who's not emotionally invested in your business, to give you an honest opinion on what's required. And this has been vital in my business. That's why I know that someone like Lauren will be invaluable in yours. So do check her out and see how she can help you. And on that note, thank you so much, Lauren, for so much information. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur that I have been for the longest time ever, and I've learned so much from you. So I'm sure everybody else has too.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been such a blast.
Thank you. And thank you for listening to me and Lauren today on Wednesday's Money Talkies. I will be back with another amazing guest, finding out how you and I can build a better business. Until the next time we meet, this is Gull signing off. Take care and bye for now.